That was.
I can hear the voice, but I can't.
I know. Don't say it. I would think about it because it had to be around the Carrie Hilson.
Oh yes. Okay. Yep.
Do you remember for real?
I listen to her music.
So
that makes sense.
I believe it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why it's like coming to my head. Because I still listen to it to this day. Sometimes I put it on my little YouTube thing.
Okay, perfect. Ready when you are.
Okay. So which one we want to do? I mean, what order we want to talk about the show?
Sure, whichever one you like. Should we do Presumed Innocence first?
Yeah, we can do that since I just watched it last night. Okay, so we'll start in with an intro. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to How You Really Feel podcast with Jeffrey and Tiana.
Yes, welcome back. I'm glad you're joining us for another episode. Today we got something really good and special planned for you. That new Jake Gyllenhaal show
On Apple, Presumed Innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that? So, well, if you haven't seen it, this is the time for you to take off your, what do you call that? How you say it?
Oh, I thought you was going to say take off from work.
It's a
spoiler
spoiler
alert. Oh. I'm like, oh, you want them to take off from work?
Spoiler alert.
And it's definitely going to be a spoiler alert because we're going to give you all of the plot line, twists and turns, and, of course, our opinions.
Exactly. So, first of all, I'm glad that you waited until the very last episode to watch them, because when you're watching all 8 of them together, it's a lot easier than sitting here on the edge of your seat. But also that's exciting because it's like, okay, what's going to happen next week? Oh, my gosh. So I do like that. And so now that I'm talking about it, it kind of makes me miss that. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was great, but then I'm like thinking, damn it, I wish I just waited to the end because I just don't want to keep waiting. You know what I'm saying? But it was so good, and I think that heightened it for me. However, what do you think about the ending? Just go there first.
So the ending for me, I liked because I liked that I was thrown off because the whole entire time I thought it was the other lawyer who did it. Like he gave me the ick as well, not just only the dead lady, but he gave me the ick. So I thought for sure, I was like, it's him. It's so obvious. It's him. And so I said, they're really going to have to throw a twist in here at the end to make me say, oh, this was good writing, because else I'm going to say it's obvious the whole time. Like it's this other guy. So I like that they did surprise me, but I almost felt like odd, the surprise. What was your thought?
Well, I was totally surprised.
Yeah.
In my mind, I was thinking that it can't be the other lawyer because it would be so out there. You know what I'm saying? I was like thinking, So it has to be maybe the other lawyer contemplated with someone else. But my whole thought was that it was her son. Or the son and the father, and I thought that maybe the father was coming up for the son. You know what I'm saying? But I had no idea. Like it just totally threw me off. But it was good. I mean, I'm glad the writing was very, very, very good because it's constantly some unintentional or like thinking, oh, I didn't think about that.
Misdirect, yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about that. But then the very end, I was like thinking, okay, baby, I was here for it. I can see it. And then I'm like thinking, whoa, it just blew me away. You know what I'm saying?
Even though I was like so shocked by the fact it was the daughter, and then the daughter had the wherewithal. But I guess nowadays with technology and all these true crime shows, I guess even if you're a teen, you would know to like wipe down stuff, take the murder weapon with you. But I'm thinking like if you like just snapped on somebody and hit them, you probably leaving all the evidence behind. Like you're probably gonna be the messiest person ever because you're not in the right state of mind. But it was just like she went into like cleanup mode. And then the part that shocked me is that he tied the rope. He was like, I came in after I came back, and I figured it must have been, my wife, and I tied the lady up. And this is like someone he loved, and he just like tying her dead body up. And so I like that surprise because I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. That
he was involved in it, right?
that you had some sort of involvement
And that
in
you had
it.
some clue and did not open your mouth at all the entire time. I mean, like, okay, with him being so intent with his wife, and at the end knowing or him thinking that it was his wife who did it, and I'm like thinking, oh my God. So that entire time when you were kind of mad at your wife and stuff like that, you were thinking that she had murdered her the whole time. The entire time you're thinking it's her. So all that stuff that came out, her pregnancy and everything, the entire time, in your mind, it was your wife who did it, because when you sat down and you had that conversation with them, you told them, well, I know you did it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like thinking, oh, okay, so that means that must have been through your mind the entire time. So you weren't being honest with your wife, or you were just trying to let her think that you were letting her get away with it. You know what I'm saying? Or presuming that she was innocent and not even letting them know that you had any clue. Didn't question the wife, didn't say anything. You know what I'm saying? I was like thinking that was weird. But now it shows how there was this little, remember how it was kind of like I don't know that he was sad because he had did that to his wife. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or was he sad because he resenting his wife because she did that to somebody that he loved and cared for? Because she was pregnant, and he did say he loved her, and he had to say it on the stand. And so imagine saying that on the stand when you think that your wife has killed your person that you wanted. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. When you think about it like that, it's just like the state of mind he had to be in the entire time. And because I think it was almost like he was saying at the end, though, like he had suspicion that it was her, but he couldn't quite confirm it until he put the tracker in her car and saw that the car went to the prosecutor's house. And that's when he was like, okay, I had an inkling, but now I know for sure that you must have been the one who did this. So I can't imagine, yes, you're on the stand and you're like doing these apologies and making this statement about how you love. What do you think about the fact that the wife stayed?
I think that sometimes it's scarier for people to have to go out on their own. You know what I'm saying? I think that sometimes they think of saving face. I think that sometimes they do it for the children, you know? Yeah, I mean, of course, a lot of times we're like, oh, bitch, I'm out of there. That could be true, but a lot of times people will stay because for the sake of kids, for the sake of their finances, for the sake of what am I going to do? I'm not working. I stopped working a long time ago. And also because remember she was at she was doing some type of work. Selling art. And then they were like, oh, your performance is going down. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then that's another part. So she basically works on commission. Like you're selling art. That's how you make your living. So you're on a commission-based type employment. So I think that sometimes like stuff like that could be a challenge.
And I think that she really loved him. Like it really conveyed that she like loved him, and she had this hope that they could like reconnect. I like that it was like such a real glimpse into a marriage, because I felt like you can, as they gradually went on, you can kind of hear how they started to grow apart, because you have the children, you have the responsibilities, and the way he was describing that, like literally it felt like when I go to bed with my wife, we're thinking about our kids, we're thinking about our bills, we're thinking about this. And when I'm with the other girl, all I'm thinking about is pleasure and freedom and just this bliss, and it becomes this addiction. And so I like how they brought in this element of, you know, because they always talk about the 80-20 rule, how men are quick to leave the 80 to go to the 20 because it seems more exciting and it's...
Never heard that.
Oh, well, I guess it's on that Tyler Perry, Why Did I Get Married? That's where I first heard the 80-20. But it's just like one of those things where I was like, I'm glad that they showed that, you know, the realness of how this separation was, and then how they both were trying to see if there was still something there between each other, that they wanted to make things work, and that even though he had this love for this other woman, he had this like undying love for his family. It's kind of twisted because I felt kind of torn, because you want to like hate the Jake Gyllenhaal's character. You want to be like, you scum, you cheated on your wife, you betrayed your family, you got obsessed with this woman who was playing you, you dummy. But it's so hard to be upset at his character because then you also kind of feel for him in a way too, because like, were you depressed? Like you had this depression, and then you start to see like even his friends are like, I would love to be able to say, remember that one scene where the guy who was representing him, his best friend, was like, I would love to be able to blame it on some sort of diagnosis, but I feel like we send you to go to get a diagnosis and it'll just come back, you're a pig.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was like this love-hate thing with Jake Gyllenhaal character, because you could see the narcissism and the arrogance, but you can also see like this sadness and also this undying love for his family. So
That's so
I just felt
funny
torn.
because that's a female's perspective. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? For me,
Okay,
I
tell
didn't
me.
even. I don't know. I just thought that. Oh, okay, I get it. I just, you know what I'm saying? I swear, I was like, oh, okay, I understand. I get it. And it wasn't anything other than knowing that men can separate sex and love. You know what I'm saying? And women can't. And for him, when he explained, like, oh my gosh, I can go over and I don't have to think about kids. I don't have to think about, you know what I'm saying? I can totally get it, because with men, we think differently. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to think about bills and blah, 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 blah. And when we're having sex, you might be like, oh shit, girl, I got to get up and cook tomorrow morning what I'm going to have for breakfast. And what am I gonna what's gonna be for breakfast? And so, oh shit, I forgot to turn that stove off. Did I turn that stove off? Did I?
But it also shows you the importance of creating that spice and spontaneity and freshness in your marriage too. Like you have to take care of your marriage along with taking care of your kids. And, you know, it just shows you that you still have to work on the marriage.
Okay. That is so funny, because I was speaking of working on marriage, and this is good because it ties into other things. Do you think that sometimes people put their kids even before their marriage? Or do you get what I'm saying? And I think
Yes.
Yeah.
People do. I remember, I don't know what I was watching. Maybe one of those love shows on the YouTube or something. But someone was like, oh, I think it was maybe on that love show I was telling you about, where the guy asked one of the woman questions of like, do you think that in a marriage, who comes first, your husband or the kids? And I said, what a jerk question to ask, because I'm thinking to myself, 100% the kids. But then when he explained it of like, well, how in order to take care of the kids, you got to take care of the marriage to help produce the kids, and so that they can have a strong,
Foundation.
yeah, strong foundation.
Okay.
So I was like, once he explained it, it didn't come off. At first, it came off kind of like selfish. I was like, oh, he's selfish. He wants all the attention. He want to be above the kids. But then when you think about it, I was like, oh, it actually makes sense that like you got to take care of the marriage.
But it also depends on the husband, because you know what I'm saying? Because there could be a husband who is worthless, who don't do shit, who isn't productive or bringing anything home. And so then you have to think about your kids first, right? But if you have a husband who is nurturing, who is doing all the things that he needs to do, like you know what I'm saying? Not that he needs to do, but helping to make whatever relationship 100%. So if he has to do 70, if he has to do 60, whatever his 40% or whatever he needs to do to make that 100% or you guys to be completely whole, I understand putting your husband first, because if that person is saying, hey, we're together, that means that, okay, we is husband first, because we're together, we can take care of the kids. If your husband not on the same page as you are, then I can see where somebody says, okay, I'm going to take care of my kids first, because me and my husband has to be on the same page first. Because if my husband and I are on the same page first, we're staying together to take care of the children. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And if my husband's not on my page, yes, my kids are going to come first. So it depends on who my husband,
That is correct.
who my husband happened to be. And you would want a husband who you can say, hey, I'm going to put my husband first. But sometimes what happens is people make a mistake and get a husband who ain't that, quote, husband material. And then they have to put their kids first because you're not that husband that I thought that you might have been. So I can, yeah.
That's very true. It definitely depends on circumstances, because you can't put someone who isn't treating you right, treating the kids right. You can't put them above the kids.
Right.
You can't keep someone who's hurting your kids. That is Absolutely correct. In that case, it's like kids first. Bye. We gotta leave or do whatever we need to do so I can make sure my kids have a happy, good life.
Right.
But if you're doing all those things necessary, then I need to make sure I'm helping to take care and
Yeah.
nurture you and pouring back into you because you've been pouring back into us.
And then exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I that is a very good question, and we need to put that one of our little roster things.
So it's definitely a good show. You should check it out. It has great acting from beginning to end.
Inclusiveness.
Yeah.
Okay. So the inclusiveness is cute, but it is sometimes I'm thinking that sometimes things are forced because it seems like if there is going to be a lead, let me say a supporting actress, they might make it a black lady. And we always see these powerful white men or powerful black women with white men. Just saying. And there's nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. But you know what I'm saying? It's just coincidence. But I'm saying but that's what we see. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, oh, she could have been white and we still would have had the same effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if they had changed the roles, the only thing when she said, oh, don't forget who our son was, that's the only moment that you realize that, oh, this is a black lady.
Right. And I think it was so unnecessary.
Exactly.
It was just like, we don't need
That's
to
what I'm
bring,
saying. And that's the inclusiveness that I'm talking about.
like our social dynamics that's going on in our world now. We
Especially
don't need to bring
into
that.
this one.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't,
It wasn't important to the storyline.
Correct.
It had absolutely nothing to do with the affair. It wasn't like he was cheating on her because she was a black wife. It was, he was cheating on her because he was unhappy. So it just didn't have any really need to be in there. So it did feel forced. It definitely felt forced. It felt like you were trying to placate. It felt like you're trying to make a message where it doesn't need to be. It's a great story. It's about a man who cheats on his wife and the mistress dies and they're trying to figure out who did it and he's getting blamed, which is something that happens, in society where the person who's closest to you, the husband or the lover, is the one who is pinpointed to be the one to do the murder, even though they do say that a lot of murders are committed by people So, I mean, that's your story right there. It's not a race story. So that wasn't really necessary. And sometimes I feel like nowadays it's a lot of that going on in the story. It looked like he was like the younger husband, but but otherwise than that, I felt as if it was just like good casting and it was a beautiful family and you didn't need to make mention of the fact that they were different races. It's clear they weren't the same race and we didn't have to bring in, oh, well, my son is half black. It's not going to be the same for him when it comes to the police. And it's like, I mean, the young boy was just riding his bike. I mean, it's the same as the woman's crazy son. If you're going to go after him, you got to go after the crazy son because he was riding the bike every night, and sitting outside his mom's house taking videos. And, she treated her son like crap.
Yep.
So I did like how they slowly allowed you to see into her character of the dead woman.
Right.
Because you start to realize how much of a manipulator she was. And
But it's almost like sleeping to get on to the top. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Well, it was a wonderful show. And if you can, check it out on Apple TV.
Yes.
This is a pause.